Let me read to you a passage from the 3rd chapter of St. Mark's Gospel, verses 1 to 6. It's the Gospel for Wednesday of the 2nd week of Ordinary Time. St. Mark writes, "Another time Jesus went into the synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Some of them were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, so they watched him closely to see if he would heal him on the Sabbath. Jesus said to the man with the shriveled hand, 'Stand up in front of everyone.' Then Jesus asked them, 'Which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?' But they remained silent. He looked round on them in anger, and, deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, said to the man, 'Stretch out your hand.' He stretched it out, and his hand was completely restored. Then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how they might kill Jesus." That's from Mark chapter 3, verses 1 to 6. It speaks of the secret refusal of sin. You know, I've always found it intriguing that many who have subsequently received the highest honours of the Church for their heroic integrity and union with God were, in their lifetime, opposed and regarded not just as wrong-headed but as less than good. In fact, it is not uncommon. It is not an uncommon pattern in history that those who were canonized as saints were vilified in life by those who knew them. That is not to say, of course, that all those who are vilified are good people. Some are vilified for good reason, precisely because they are evil. But there are others who are good and who are vilified. As a matter of fact, Christ warned his disciples that they must expect to receive the vilification and suspicion that he had received. As they did to the Master, so will they do to the disciple. And this brings us to the mystery of Christ's own reception among his own. He, the Word made flesh, came unto his own, and his own did not receive him. But to those who did receive him, he gave power to become children of God. In our Gospel today, we have an instance of the hostility to Christ which possessed many of the religious leaders. In reading the account, the Christian keeps ever in mind who Jesus Christ really was. He was God the Son made man. Not the slightest trace of sin could ever so much as touch him. He was absolutely holy and was himself the source of holiness. His human nature was absolutely perfect in its moral character. The thought of this, even during Christ's hidden years of Nazareth, is enthralling. There was a man in that obscure village of Nazareth, humbly and quietly working at his trade, growing up in the circle of his home, who was the all-holy God. We may presume that he was recognized as being a very good man, but this did not stop his townspeople from attempting to kill him when he returned to them after having begun his public ministry. Once our Lord showed his colours, which is to say, his true identity and mission, they turned him out. He was a sign of contradiction, and the same pattern manifested itself in his public ministry. So too in our Gospel today. There is something awesome, terrible, striking about our scene today. The all-holy Son of God, become a man like us in all things but sin, was in the synagogue teaching. The Pharisees were there, and towards this holy, admirable person, they were hostile. They were filled with suspicion. Now, what was at the root of their suspicion? Was it a pure zeal for their religion? Well, we gain a clue from John's account of the Passion. When the leaders brought Jesus before Pilate, we are told that Pilate knew it was from jealousy that they had delivered him up to him. Jesus himself had done nothing wrong. The source of the Pharisees' desire to accuse Jesus was their jealousy. They could not bear his manifest spiritual authority, an authority recognized by the people, an authority Jesus himself exercised calmly, sovereignly, and constantly. In the previous passages of the Gospel, they accuse our Lord of allowing his disciples to break the Sabbath rest by their picking ears of corn. The Sabbath was pressed hard by the Pharisaical class, and we may say policed by them, but it served to bolster their sense of position and authority, and Jesus was continually ignoring their excesses and their strictures. He was allowing a much freer practice of the Sabbath rest and himself healing on the Sabbath. So they were in the synagogue there, intent on observing if he would violate the Sabbath yet again. They knew their man. They knew that the man with the withered hand was also in the synagogue during our Lord's speaking. And they knew Christ's compassion. They expected him to do something for this poor unfortunate, and this would be their chance to accuse our Lord. St. Mark makes the point that this was precisely their motivation. It is a picture of sin in opposition to God. Even our Lord himself, for all his divine power, seems unable to overcome their sinful stubbornness. As we read, he said, "Which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?" But they remained silent. He looked round on them in anger, and deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." It would be a good thing for us to take for granted that there are lurking deep within our hearts elements of this same opposition to Christ and his holy will. In our desire for holiness of life, let us assume that there are some aspects of God's will that we are secretly refusing. Well, let us at least desire those aspects of holiness that we do not yet want. If we are stubbornly holding on to this or that sin, be it some failure to forgive, some attachment to this world's goods, some area of self-indulgence, or some other way we are refusing to give Christ what he is asking for, let us at least desire to want to do this. Let us ask for the grace to desire to accept Christ fully, and having been granted the desire, then to be truly faithful to it and to act on it.